Yeah, this is interesting. I'm not sure what we had to say about this, but I just wanted to have a look at it, see what people think about it. This user on Twitter called Sandy of Suffolk says, let's see your pictures of the real England that luckily still exists. I'll go first. Wiltshire. That is a nice picture of Wiltshire, or maybe an AI generated picture that looks like Wiltshire. Either way, even if it is AI generated, there are still places like this. Now, nothing has happened, I don't think, that's wrong yet. But then there's this response from Snigder on Twitter, which says, please beware, the Twitter accounts sharing seemingly harmless nostalgia are, in reality, spreading xenophobia and racism. Otto English has dubbed this trend shitstalgia. Here is the case in point. Sandy of Suffolk. So, calling it shitstalgia is very unimaginative, and it's kind of just like, we hate this thing. Like, it doesn't tell you anything about it. It has nothing to do with feces, so why shit? It's shit because you don't like it. There you go. So it's just a bad name. But could they be posting it in a way that could link eventually to kick out the immigrants? Yes. And I think you could make a pretty good argument that they should be arguing that. At least the immigrants that shouldn't be here. But are they saying this? I don't think so. I don't know. As I said, I'm not sure really what I want to say about this, but I kind of wanted to say it and see what you guys think.
There's a certain green text from a while ago that I need to find. I know Harry from Lotus Eaters tweeted it in response to this, but it's just people going, the 50s were never happy. No one ever owned a house. No one ever had a family. No one ever. It's just that. It's people going, no, how dare you imply that these little English villages, which have like 1,000-year-old architecture and beautiful winding roads and are 99% homogenous because it's the same like 20 families that have lived there since the bloody Bronze Age. How dare you imply that might be slightly better than just sort of multi-culty little soup of the nowhere people that is most large-scale English cities nowadays.
In a pod
how
and
dare
bugs,
you imply that this might be better? And how dare you imply we should do something to maintain this? It reminds me of that one interview that happened on, I want to say Trigonometry, though it might have been somewhere else, where it was, what's her name? The redhead, Sharon Osbourne, talking about how when she was a little girl, you used to be able to go to places like the palaces in London, and used to be able to go and tour the palaces and have afternoon tea and whatever. And it would be very English. Everything would be very English, from the buildings to the people to the everything. It would all just be very English. And she was talking about how it's not like that anymore. And what's wrong with that? Why are you mad that it's completely different now? It's like, people are very mad at the idea of people wanting to preserve English culture.
Yeah. Of all the people to be the savior of Britain, I didn't expect Sharon Osbourne, but hey.
Oh no, she was on the wrong side of it. She was going, why do you care that it's changed? It's just different now.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I misunderstood you. Of all the people to be ruining Britain, Sharon Osbourne was near the top. Yeah. Anyway, is Sharon Osbourne the British Whoopi Goldberg? I wonder. But yeah, I've mentioned before that the left will often see the right saying, look at these good things from the past, and say, you just want to go backwards. You just still want to stop progress. And some people actually do, but not very many. Most of them are what they're essentially pushing for is synthesizing the good progress we've made with the things of the past that were actually good. And this picture is a pretty good example of something that has lasted a very long time for good reason. It's more than just the structures of the buildings and the geometry of the road and the existence of the greenery in the background. It's all of it working together with the people who live there. And it produces, these are the houses that would have been contemporary long before, but also very much during the height of Britain's power in the world. There's something to that. And so there is something to it that's worth preserving. That's what I think is going to, if we do well in this culture, well, that's what is going to come of it. We will see a a partial return to a lot of the traditional values. It's not even returning to them, it's putting them forward to now, while still maintaining the things that are good about modernity. And many of you would say, what's good about modernity? Some more than others, but if you try to notice things that you've otherwise put out of your mind because they're just baseline, you'll notice there's actually quite a lot of good things about modernity. But they're so normal to you that you don't think about them. Those things we can retain. And the things that are stood the test of time, we pull them forward. So that's a way of thinking about it, actually. If anyone says you just want to go backwards, say, no, I want to pull those things forwards. That will short circuit the leftist that said that to you, most likely.
I don't want to go backwards. I just want to keep the good things that worked there that we are apparently just discarding on the basis purely that they are old. For example, like Americans do sometimes take the piss or be surprised at the size of British houses because a lot of them are incredibly tiny, especially compared to America. Not particularly shocking when you just look at like the actual size of our countries compared to each other. Like we genuinely don't have the space. But a lot of these old English houses are very small. They have quite low ceilings, low doors and stuff. But we genuinely don't really know how to build homes that trap heat as well as some of these old houses do. New builds that are being built nowadays have so much money thrown at them for incredibly stupid reasons to figure out things like, right, how can we heat this in a way that's climate neutral and carbon effective and blah, 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 and whatever. Whereas a lot of the older houses we have in England that have stood for centuries are just like, yeah, we have a fire and then we vent the heat out. And they'd figured it out then, but we can't do that now because climate narratives. It's great. It's wonderful.
I will argue a little bit on that in defense of modernity, because the climate change stuff, yeah, I can agree most of that's nonsense. And most of they go way too far with it. But in terms of efficiency and convenience, there is more to be done than simply let's have a fire in the middle of the room. Now, I like fireplaces. I actually do like fireplaces. And if we move in together much and we find a place with a fireplace, that's fine by me. But it's not as convenient as being able to just press a button and have heat.
No,
people would prefer
no. I am not talking about just radiators. A radiator operates on the same premise as a fireplace in that it is one hot thing that emanates the heat, and then the hot air spreads around the room and the houses. I'm talking about new builds that are being built with things like it's basically purely electric heating rather than gas central heating. And they are a whole mess. There's a certain star man who works in engineering who can talk about this in far greater detail than I can. But yes, new builds are a little bit of a mess.
Fair enough.
My personal favourite version of we're not allowed to do gas central heating because it has the word gas in it and it'll lower our ESG score by 10 points. It was when I was still back in senior school, back in the olden days, immediately before Corona hit, our school invested a lot of money in the new classrooms they were building in installing air circulatory heaters, which guess what we weren't allowed to turn on when a certain airborne virus was going around.
Oh no.
So we all just had to sit there wearing like I have a distinct memory of being sat in a Latin class at like 9 o'clock in the morning wearing my suit, because I went to a posh twat school and we all had to wear suits every day. My suit, a jumper under my blazer, a coat over my blazer, a scarf in class, fingerless gloves, and a water bottle on my lap, because we weren't allowed to have heating in the room. We had to have all the windows open because disease, and I wasn't allowed to move away from the window because of social distancing. And we weren't allowed to turn the heating on because it was an air circulating heater, and it would have broken a policy. It's wonderful, really. It's brilliant.
Very glad that I was not in any kind of institution during COVID. Very glad. And I will always recognize how lucky I was there and how unlucky others were. So yeah, I have a lot of sympathy for that. I would hate that. I would not get on well with that. I'd just not come in at that point, or find some way to come in as little as possible if I was in school doing that. So yeah, okay, fair enough. I will take your word for it then that the electric stuff and a lot of the new stuff just doesn't work properly and is bad. Your word via Scrum. Yeah, his word via you. Either way. But in principle, it doesn't have to be, I don't think. Perhaps they're struggling to implement it, but the technology is not invalid. So if that can end up being better, genuinely, which it probably can eventually, I don't think that's a problem, even though it is modern. So that's worth taking into account. Anyway, a lot of the I've obviously seen some bad ones, but I've seen some good new builds as well. At least ones that aren't ugly. If you want like new builds built such that they look like this, it's a pretty high aspiration because it's probably extremely inefficient today to build it like that. And then you'd get people complaining that it's fake. Now, maybe it's worth trying to make it look more like this, but then someone's going to foot the bill for the efficiency loss in trying to make it look like this, even if it's not as efficient in modern building standards. So I don't know. Either way, I want places like this to remain existing, and houses like this that are say older than a couple hundred years should not be knocked down under pretty much any circumstances.